Hello, welcome to the Black Salt Mirror. I will be doing an oracle and probably a tarot reading for you today for whatever questions you have been asking of late. They're saying that there have been a lot of questions lately, and that's a good thing because that means you're tuned in and paying attention and trying. All right, we've got number 20. These don't have names, at least not on the cards. But you can see it's a combination of Little Red and the Wolf. And she's got the death moth on her throat. It is the end of kindness, they're saying. You see the fangs she's sporting. There are times when you come to realize that kindness interpersonally is people-pleasing. It's a disservice to yourself. There's nice and then there's kind. And there are times when you should help people, like if they're stranded on the side of the road or something, kindness would dictate that you help them. But if it's just everyday life, going out of your way for people who can probably figure it out themselves or could help elsewhere, or saying things that you don't mean because they're nice, that one in particular they're giving me, it's the end of that. It's the end of performative niceties. Being who you are is sometimes being seen as blunt, is sometimes being seen as selfish or lazy or unavailable. But that's the way of things. You are not here to be of service to everyone who doesn't want to be of service to themselves. 19 is the next one. So it's going backwards from 20 to 19. There was a time when you would jump over the fire with people. There was a time when you would marry yourself to this. Jumping over the fire is a marriage ritual in some cultures, and she looks like she's dressed like a bride. But the male is wearing a mask. Or is something else. I can't tell if that's supposed to be a mask or if it's just supposed to be a stylized skull. You are done though. Going the distance for people. For no good reason. Doing these kind of extreme things should be a rarity. It should be in a circumstance where you feel that it's truly necessary, or you feel particularly called to put in the extra effort for people. It should not be your default, because you only have so much time, you only have so much energy, and you should not be wasting it on things that you don't need to be doing for people who don't need your help, and for not good enough reasons. The last card from this deck is number 4. We see the wolf motif again. I think it's in all of the cards, but here it's much more serving of the female nature. All of these cards are a reflection of the interplay, the divine interplay between the masculine and feminine. And the feminine receptive nature in this deck is symbolized by a young girl, or maybe a young woman in some cases, like the marriage. And the masculine is symbolized by a wolf. The masculine energy is outgoing, aggressive, passionate. It's the doer. And the feminine is the passive observer, the receiver, the womb. In the divine dynamic here, as is more proper, the 4 is a number of celebration and balance. The girl is dancing on a cliff above the clouds, Clouds tend to represent an obscurity of thought, a lack of clarity. But here, she's above them. She's in the clear. And the masculine is watching her and guarding her and holding her above the clouds so that she can dance freely beneath the moon, which represents, among many things, obscure and unseen. It represents a darker nature. Not bad, dark, but just the parts of you that you hide, the parts of you that you keep swollen, they're saying. I'm seeing a door, though, that you're standing behind that you don't let out. She's holding a tambourine, if you can't see, and dancing. There are parts of you that you've put aside or put at a lower priority than other people. And that's the problem with people pleasing, and that's the problem with being taught as a girl growing up. In some cases, you're not genetically female, but you've been taught to serve others. You've been taught to let the aggression around you be okay, that you're to soothe it, that you're to accommodate for it, that you're to... If you can see the camera jiggling, that's my dog being weird. That's one of the signs I always get. He looks like a wolf. Whenever he starts fidgeting around and I'm doing a reading, I always know that I'm on track. That and like the weird sensations in my ears where they pop and then go away. Kind of like I'm at high altitude. So this is for someone that has spent a large portion of their life up until now being the pacifier, putting themselves behind the needs of others, behind the service to others, behind these ideas that you need to be available to others, pleasing to others, and sacrifice for others at the benefit and the behest of someone who doesn't do that themselves. Or maybe a lot of someones who don't do that themselves. Or maybe at the behest of someone like a mother figure who was raised that way, and instead of doing better for you, decided to give you the same short end of the stick that she had so that she would not become jealous that you had a better life than her. And the next deck is Cats and Cantrips, and we get the Fool. This is not a tarot deck, but the Fool exists nonetheless. The Fool represents a new journey. The rose here is very significant. It appears throughout the tarot, but this particular rose, it gives me a stronger tie to the Death card. The Death card is based on the War of the Roses, and each of the two houses were represented by roses. And it's a new journey, but a new regime as well. The reason you can make the new journey is because of your own divine sovereignty. Because you are the rose now. You have the rose now. It's a greater symbol of your own divine power and the path that you're going to follow as you go forward now. And you can see the cat is holding it up, not worried at all about falling off. Although in this depiction we have no idea how high this ledge is. It could be quite low. And dressed in the macaroni fashion, as is with the tarot deck. What little I know of that is that usually the outcasts, frequently the foppish men, who everyone kind of looks down on and thinks of as frivolous, they're usually the most progressive, and they lead the way into fashions that become trends, into ideologies that become very pervasive and common, into an acceptance of different and new and more inclusive. And that is what the Fool represents. someone who is paving the way to newer, better, kinder ideologies. And the idiot is the other incarnation of the fool. It's called the fool because many see it as foolish and idiotic. And they think that it is a lack of seeing the world as it exists, kind of a head in the clouds, as we keep getting these cloud imagery. Clouds appear in the background here. They appear with the girl who's also standing on a ledge like the fool. But it's funny because jumping over the fire symbolically is just as dangerous as standing on a ledge above the clouds. But one of them they want you to do. One of them they encourage you to do. All the sacrifices that you make that are just as dangerous and just as self-harming, and what they take from you to give to others, are encouraged. And this is how you've come to this place now. All the question marks. You've said, this doesn't make sense. Why am I giving all of this to someone else? Why can't they do that for themselves? Why do we have to play this game where we continue to live life as though it was the way it was before? As though it was like your childhood when it's not anymore. As though nobody needs to heal and grow, and we all have to shrink ourselves to accommodate that smallness in them. And you can see the eye peeking out of the finger holes on the box. You could always see the truth. It never quite made sense to you. As much as they tried to pull the wool over your eyes, as much as they tried to make it seem like you were the problem, like you were the one who didn't get it. You were the one who got it. You were the one who said, this doesn't need to be this way. This doesn't make sense. This isn't how it should be, because I can see another path and it's more beneficial to everyone else. The difference is that they have to accept the fact that not everyone has to suffer the way that they did. And for some reason, these small, terrible people would rather everyone suffer the way that they did than that everyone benefit from the lessons that they've learned and improve. They would rather continue to suffer themselves and have everyone around them suffer than to lift everyone up, than to allow anyone not to wallow with them, because they don't want to heal. It's always the way of things. And this could be I'm getting a lot of parent energy, but I mean, it could be anyone in your life. Managers, spouses, your friend group that you've outgrown. We have got the Eight of Wands in reverse, which looks a lot like the Star card. There's a thing that you are. It's frequently called the black sheep of the family, but you are the kid that would catch the fireflies. And it makes you sovereign. And they can see that in you, and they hated that. They hated that you were a beautiful thing. They hated that you were different in a desirable fashion. They hated that you had specialness to you. The Four of Swords. And they put you in a cage. It's like she's got fencing around her bed here. You stayed in your room and you learned that your thoughts were your greatest friends because you never doubted them. A lot of people will gaslight themselves and they'll decide that they're wrong even though they know that they're right. You never did that. You always knew that you were right. You always knew that the way that you saw the world was the correct way. However, living in a place where no one else would acknowledge that, and when people would try to harm you in some way for believing that, you spend a lot of time alone with your imagination. And this is why you're an artist. because your imagination was your greatest friend, and it took all of the pain and all of the suffering in your life and it made it into these beautiful stories. Whether that be actual stories that you write, or I'm getting something like fish figurines, like these are porcelain now, and you work with clay, something like that. Could be paintings on the wall of fish. The frog prints here is significant. But they made it into a cage for you instead of a gift. The Ten of Pentacles. In adulthood now, the whimsy, your childlike nature, that inner child within you that you always kept inside in that room because no one else would accept it, it's going to make you a lot of money. And it's going to get you a lot of resources to live the life and to build the dream that you saw all those years in childhood that no one else would acknowledge, that you couldn't let go of because you knew it was right. But now the dream's coming alive. You see, she's jumping off the carousel on her donkey. I love donkeys. I think I've said this before. I love donkeys. They're beautiful creatures. They're also the representation of the Democratic Party in the United States. The one party that cares about people and not money. The sun. The queen bee you will become. The weird little child that you once were with all these strange ideas. You will find your people and they will follow you and they will believe because you did. Because you are so sure that it's right. And this is the way of things. And this is the way to happiness. The sun is happiness and brightness and shining and being seen. And you will gather a following. It doesn't have to be ostentatious. It doesn't have to be flashy. You don't have to have millions of people who know your name and where you can't walk down the street in public. But you will gain fans and a following within your community. And they will believe your truth the way that you express it because you believe it and you know it to be true. And you will share this gift of yours in whatever medium you share it. And you will make it a reality because you are the child the fairies loved. On the bottom here, we've got the Five of Clubs, and it's a serpent, and apples are coming out from underneath her skirt, which is very reminiscent of Eve and her awareness of her own nudity. And it was always painted. I was not raised Christian, but I've heard the stories, so it was painted from my my hearings as a bad thing. To be completely nude and seen. However, it's usually representative of being unburdened by vices and material things and all the trappings that hold us down. The apple was originally a pomegranate. Pomme de grenade. Pomme is apple. The pomegranate is representative of Hades. And the serpent is shedding the skin. So it's about death. It's about the death and rebirth cycle that happens when you strip away all of the illusion. And the Five of Wands is a conflict card. People are not going to be happy about it because it shows you themselves. The serpent is kind of hissing at her as the apples come out. Like, here, this is your death and your birth. This is the death of your ego. This is the death of your materialism. This is the death of your capitalism. This is the death of the idea that people need to be poor, that there need to be classes, and that we can't all help each other and serve each other. And the serpent has to shed like you do. Because when growth happens in the society, those people that didn't want anyone to benefit from their experiences, that wanted everyone to suffer the way that they did, to stay unhealed and broken, they have to shed too. If we all start shedding around them, they're forced to, and drag them kicking and screaming into serenity. But it's uncomfortable. There's a long period when you're healing where you may have experienced this. I did in college. When I finally got away from all the conflict at home, it's a peaceful setting that you're in, but because you grew up in so much conflict and so much turmoil, you're always waiting for it to show up again. And you have this great sense of unease. And I remember saying that to my boyfriend at the time, saying, I have this terrible feeling of unease, like something's gonna happen. And we're just like driving to go get brunch in the car. And it lasts for years. And I learned later, clinically, it's a sign of the nervous system relaxing after being fight or flight for so long. But everyone goes through that because you become accustomed to things, including chaos and turmoil. And you have to go through that period where your body learns that it's over now, that you can relax, that it's okay to enjoy things, it's okay to be happy. No one's gonna come and shout at you and say that you're being lazy. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And why aren't you helping out the family more? And I'm getting a flood of messages about the things that people have said to you to stop you from being happy because it triggered them that you were happy. Confirmation burp. Let me get these cards again. This looks like happiness, but it's a marriage to death. The death that you won't go through, the death that they don't want to go through, the shedding that they don't want to experience, that uncomfortable period that they don't choose, even though it's not as uncomfortable as being angry and chaotic all the time, but it's different. And they choose the devil they know rather than the devil they don't. And some people get off on taking things from others, on forcing you to suffer the way that they do. And they don't feel happy for you. And maybe they won't. A lot of people won't. That's the other side, is it involves getting away from people who you know don't want to grow, because they will lash out. And you have to get away from them, which is part of the message of being above the clouds and dancing, is you have to leave it all behind. You have to get away from the people who hurt you, the people who don't want good things for you, even if they won't tell you. And usually they'll lie and they'll paint one narrative with their words and a very different narrative with their actions. And they'll go around telling people how they want the world for you. Well, you see them sabotaging it at every turn. Top of the deck was the Tower. It's the illusion that they built about who they are and what they want for you. And it's built out of these childish little blocks that are going to crumble down the second you find the doorway, because that's where the lever is. And you recognize that's what it is. She's examining these blocks. She says, I know what this is. This isn't real. This is stupid. I don't need to be here anymore. And when you leave, the tower comes down and you become the star that I see in this card, which is the Eight of Wands. Normally a card about fighting off the others that would come for you. But this isn't about fighting at all. This is about serenity. Sometimes you don't have to fight. Sometimes you have to focus so much on yourself that you shine and your own divinity and they burn away. And you just leave. And you find happiness and you shine and you show others the light, which guides their way. And then the people who are so beneath your frequency just fall off. And you don't talk to them again. And you don't think of them again. Because you're divine and beautiful. And you are the fool on this journey. And that's why we come back to the first card. If I can get to it. You've grown up now, little girl. You have teeth. And you speak the truth. The death moth is like the death card. Everything that you've shed away, everything that happened to you, everything that burned you and made you into a new, more healed version of yourself, it's all still with you. The scars are still there. It doesn't mean it didn't hurt. It doesn't mean it wasn't wrong. And that's why you communicate it. That's why you tell people about it. So maybe they don't have to burn like that. And now you've got fangs. You don't have to put up with nobody's bullshit. Speak your truth. Don't be afraid. The people that you need to support you will find you when they hear your truth. And they will see, just as you did, what's beyond what's been shown to you. The little limited view out into the world that you were allowed, so that you didn't get curious and try to leave. But you were better than that. You knew. The parting card is a Six of Pentacles. You are always different. You are always better. You are always above. You are one of the rats on the wheel. You were meant to guide them. And that is who you are. The Empress. And this might be the High Priestess. I think number 2. They couldn't tear you down because you're a mountain. And you're sovereign. And you will always be that way. They can either go around or they can live with you. So know that you're beautiful, know that you're perfect, know that you were shown the path early on as a beacon of hope for you to hold on to until the time came for you to show others and to make the thing that you saw all those years in childhood into the reality around you for everyone to live in, whether they like it or not. I love you, and I'll see you very soon.